God of my fathers and Lord of mercy, you have made all things by your word, and by your wisdom have formed man and woman, to have dominion over the creatures you have made, and rule the world in holiness and righteousness, and pronounce judgment in uprightness of soul. Give me the wisdom that sits by your throne, and do not reject me from among your servants. With you is wisdom, who knows your works and was present when you made the world, and who understands what is pleasing in your sight, and what is right according to your commandments. Send her forth from the holy heavens, and from the throne of your glory send her, that she may be with me in toil, and that I may learn what is pleasing to you. For she knows and understands all things, and she will guide me wisely in my actions and guard me with her glory.
Okay, first item of business. Do any members have any personal or prejudicial interest to declare? Councillor Nolte.
Interest in item 7, please, as I am chair of Fowl Food Bank and I am a trustee of Citizens Advice, and they're both due to get some money from that.
Are you staying? Oh, right, okay. Councillor?
I am on the committee of File Citizens Advice as well.
Are you leaving, Councillor Griffiths, or are you staying? There's no problem if you're staying.
Stay, please. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Agenda item 2, confirmation of minutes. I propose from the chair and the minutes of the annual general meeting held on the 11th of May be confirmed as a correct record. And I have a seconder.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to second that proposition.
All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. Chief Executive, do you have any communications to report?
I don't have any, Mr. Mayor. I'm not sure whether you have any.
I have missed Mayor's announcement. No, I haven't got any.
Then I shall follow suit, and I have no announcements. Thank you.
Okay. 2 questions have been received from members of the council. And can I remind councillors a supplementary question may be asked, but it must arise from the answer to the original question. Councillor O'Rourke, would you like to ask your question?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Following the appointment of consultants later last year, an extensive consultation exercise was carried out in March to inform plans for the regeneration of St Anne's Town Centre and the Island site. As a member of the Town Centre's working group and its St Anne's subgroup, along with Councillor Redcliffe, chairman of the working group, I was closely involved with officers in the brief and selection of the consultants through the procurement process, so I have a particularly strong interest in this project. Whilst I perhaps know more than most, for the benefit of all, can the leader please update the council on the outcome of the consultation and the next steps in taking this forward? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you to Councillor O'Rourke. And as he has said, yes, consultants were appointed to prepare a comprehensive master plan that will look to shape the future development of St Anne's Town Centre and the island site on the promenade over the coming years, and help the council to access external funding. The first stage of the commission involved the creation of an extensive evidence base, which has been prepared to inform the preparation of a concept master plan. The views of the public and key stakeholders were sought during a consultation exercise, and these views, which were overwhelmingly positive, have helped to shape the master plan as it has been further developed. The government has invited bids to round 2 of its Levelling Up Fund. The date for submission of bids was originally 6th of July, this Wednesday, but the government are extending this as the portal is not yet available. This second round has 3 investment themes: transport, regeneration and town centre investment, and cultural investment. To be successful, bids must demonstrate that they are able to meet the gateway criteria and will be assessed having regard to characteristics of place, strategic fit, deliverability, and an economic case. Not every aspect of the master plan will be eligible for Levelling Up funding, as certain aspirations will fall outside the funding criteria or outside the deadline for spending, which is March 2025. There is, however, an opportunity to secure funding to help deliver the initial phases of the master plan. And in particular, I'll list the schemes. Station Gateway, which is public realm improvements to the area around the station, a key arrival point to the town. High quality active travel, comprising a dedicated cycle pedestrian link and wayfinding improvements. An events space in St Anne's Square to provide a focal point and a pedestrian friendly experience. The Pier Link, connecting the town centre and the seafront by continuing the active travel link and providing improved crossing points to Clifton Drive and the inner promenade. And Promenade Gardens, upgrading this important heritage asset and creating an improved pedestrian and cycle link to Fairhaven car park. It is expected that there will be a great deal of competition in this round of bidding, and so the bid has been formulated to make as strong a case as possible, having regard to the bid criteria and spending deadlines. It is expected that the bid would deliver transformation of the town centre with 4 hectares of new public realm, 460 metres of active travel link, encouraging increased walking and cycling, and an enhanced events programme to increase both day visitors and overnight visitors to Fylde. I hope that updates council members. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor O'Rourke, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. Whilst the submission deadline has been now extended by the government due to the problems with the online portal, can the leader please advise how much funding the council's Levelling Up bid will be for, and how this compares to other regeneration initiatives already delivered or underway and filed? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, of course, the bid that is currently worked up is around £14.6 million, and that will include some match funding, and it is, as been said, another major scheme which, if successful, will be involved in delivering. And just to set that into some context, members will be interested to see what this council has been delivering and is part of delivering with partners over recent years. And just to set out a few of those schemes, and again, as I say, in recent years, we've had the award-winning Fairhaven to Church Scar sea defences, and that was £22 million worth of investment. We've had the Fairhaven Heritage Lottery grant, the restoration works at Fairhaven, and on the back of that, capital injection of funding as well, the adventure golf, regeneration of the area and around the area, and that's £3.5 million. We've had the award of the Kirkham Futures funding, currently underway, public realm regeneration, repurposing of buildings, shopfront scheme, £9.6 million. We've had the award of the project at St Anne's for the seawall with the Environment Agency, and that is £12.1 million. and not forgetting a huge investment in the area that we were involved in for many, many years and put capital injection behind that. And that's the M55 Link Road, currently under construction, and that's an investment of £27 million. Some sizable investment in Fylde. That total spend, if successful with our levelling up bid, is £88.8 million, and illustrates just how ambitious we are as a council to improve Fylde for our residents, our businesses and our visitors. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Second question is Councillor Peter Collins.
Before Councillor Collins makes his question, can I ask you if I can remain seated? I've got gout in the knee, which is rather restricted.
What was your term and your microphone?
The Vice Chairman will do that.
Done.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. In November 2021, Bryningwood Wharton Parish Council sent letters by recorded delivery to the Chair of the Planning Committee and some senior officers. This was an escalation following months of unsuccessful attempts to engage Fylde in establishing a partnership to progress promised public realm and infrastructure improvements for Wharton, made in the local plan in 2018. The Parish Council has not received any response.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Point of order, Mr Mayor, if I may. I'm not so certain that that's the question that's been published, and perhaps you could advise. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I don't think I've read that. Thank you.
Mr Mayor, the standing order concerned is procedural 9.2, and that refers to questions being asked if the councillor who wants to ask the question has given it in writing to the Director of Resources before a certain deadline. So the requirement is that the question be the one that the councillor has submitted to the Director of Resources, or Deputy Chief Executive as she is now.
Thank you for that. Okay, Councillor Collins,
Yes,
that's the one that's in front of you.
Yeah. The letter stated that the Parish Council has recently undertaken a major review of its neighbourhood plan and cross-referenced it closely with the adopted local plan, identifying that urgent attention is required to ensure that common policies and associated targets are fulfilled within the plan period. It is the Parish Council's wish to see a coordinated and cooperative relationship with Fylde to develop a 10-year plan to ensure progress is maintained. The Parish Council recognises...
Excuse me, sorry. Can the Chairman, can you read that please? Or I'll read it for you if you don't want.
The question was submitted. This is the preamble to the question. There's no requirement in the Constitution for a preamble to the question to be submitted.
It's already been said that you haven't got to have any preamble. You have to submit the question. It should be there in writing. It is in writing, and it says, can the Chairman? So that's the question, please, Councillor Collins.
I've got 2 minutes to...
I'll read it out. Okay. Can the Chairman of the Planning Committee give an assurance that Fylde Borough Council will engage with Bryningwood Wharton Parish Council to identify priorities and develop an action plan to ensure that the parish develops in accordance with the policies and objectives enshrined in the local plan and neighbourhood plan? Councillor Fiddler, please respond.
My response will be to that question that you just read out, Mr Mayor. The author of the question asks if the Chairman of Planning can give an assurance that Fylde Borough will ensure that the parish develops in accordance with the policies and objectives enshrined in the local plan and the neighbourhood plan. The obvious simple answer is obviously yes, I can give that assurance. Planning applications are determined in accordance with the development plan, which comprises the MPPF, Fylde's local plan as amended, and the neighbourhood plan. But many people are not aware that the neighbourhood plan is an important and integral part of the development plan. However, To add substance to the assurance, I intend to invite representatives from the Parish Council to a meeting with planning officers to review mutual priorities and objectives.
Councillor Collins, would you like to ask a question which pertains
Okay,
to
can
the
I-
answer
can I
that's
ask-
just been given?
Yeah, can I ask the legal officer to give his view on whether or not preambles should be submitted in advance of a question from a member of the council?
Yeah, Mr Mayor, the standing order talks about a question being given in writing. I know there's been some latitude given historically for preambles to precede questions, but the standing order clearly refers to a question. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
So, Councillor Collins, you are allowed to ask a question with Councillor Fiddler's response.
Yes, thank you. Let's thank Councillor Fiddler for his response. Given that the report of the last Planning Advisory Service review in 2012 stated that a clearer approach to neighbourhood planning is required in Fylde in terms of how much neighbourhoods will be engaged within the planning process. Does Councillor Fiddler agree that it should not be necessary for questions to be asked at full council in order to obtain an assurance that such engagement with Brining and Wharton Parish Council takes place?
Again, I'm not too sure whether that is a supplementary question.
I think it is.
You think it is? I'll take your judgment, Mr Mayor.
It's up to you to respond if you wish.
Yes. The relationship between Foul Borough and the parishes has been fraught for a considerable amount of time. And we recently, and I think Councillor Collins was present at the parish liaison meeting when I presented a scoping report in terms of the forthcoming PAS review. And an integral part of that scoping review was this relationship and the intent that we would listen to the parishes, we would meet with the parishes and give them the opportunity to describe their priorities and objectives as I've outlined in my main response to his first question.
Agenda item 6, Mr Wright, you've got a question. Could you come to the lectern, please? I think you've been before, so you know the...
I'm afraid so. Can you hear me? Can I make one observation? That it's very difficult to hear people from the public gallery. I could hardly hear Councillor Fiddler, for future reference. And can I just thank, before I read my question, can I just thank Councillor Collins for raising the issue of the non-engagement of Foul Borough Council with the Brining and Wharton Parish Council. It's been quite shameful, the lack of respect shown to the Parish Council. I will do. Thank you very much. Nice to see democracy in action. I'm speaking on behalf of a number of residents dealing with the increased risk of flooding as a result of this housing development, the Raybook Park housing development, and Fylde's failure to ensure that there was an approved drainage scheme in place before development started 3 years ago. 12 months ago, we met with Councillor Fiddler and Councillor Threlfall and officers at the Town Hall to try to understand why officers were not taking enforcement action with regard to the outstanding planning breaches on this development, notably relating to critical drainage and landscaping conditions. We were given various assurances and commitments, including the promise of an on-site meeting with the developer and residents as soon as possible. This didn't happen. 5 months ago, I stood here before you with the same unresolved issues and broken promises, and I again received assurances from Councillor Fiddler that the outstanding planning issues and breaches regarding critical drainage were being addressed as a priority. This time before the end of February, he said. Again, nothing happened. I tried to raise the matter again at Poole Council on 25th of April, but my submission was deemed too long. But it did at least elicit some action. Namely, the development officer met with myself and another resident off-site on the 27th of April, but disappointingly only so that Mr Stowe could remind himself of the outstanding issues. Mr Stowe promised to take issues forward as a priority, and the following day, the 28th of April, Councillor Threlfall confirmed to me personally that Mr Stowe would be contacting the developer that day. He didn't, and nothing has happened since. Mr Stowe continues to claim he has other priorities. Councillor Fiddler and his officers repeatedly tell us that FAL follow national planning guidance that seeks to avoid formal enforcement action through engagement and negotiation with developers. But there has been no dialogue and no engagement by FAL officers with this development for at least 12 months on these outstanding critical issues. FAL are not following national guidance. My question, therefore, would anyone in this room like to stand up and accept responsibilities for these failings and be accountable and commit to doing something about it rather than the empty promises residents have been given for the past 3 years? And it doesn't please me to be here. I'm sure it doesn't please you for me to be wasting your time with this, but I keep having to come back. I get promises and nothing happens.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, can I remind colleagues that the Raybrook development in question is a large residential scheme approved on appeal and is situated immediately to the rear of Mr. Wright's residence. I can understand Mr. Wright's frustration, a frustration that I share over a process that has taken far longer than it should have done. I and officers did meet with Mr. Wright and a neighbour in July 2021, as Mr. Wright has outlined. And they outlined their concerns over a number of elements of the implementation of this development. The officers responded to some of the issues at the meeting, and commitments were made to progress others. Some of those commitments, such as a resolution of site levels, replanting of trees to the site frontage, and the arrangement of a site meeting, have been delivered. Mr. Wright refers to the site meeting in his question, and Mr. Stell agrees that it was a useful opportunity to remind him of the issues, but also to check progress on the development, spending roughly 90 minutes with the residents and the council's drainage engineer. This meeting did take longer to arrange than it should have, and Mr. Wright has received an apology for the delay. While several issues raised in July 2021 have been resolved, there is the outstanding matter of discharge of the planning condition that relates to the surface and foul water drainage on the site. This evening I can report that the foul water drainage arrangements are now approved by United Utilities. The design of the surface water drainage scheme has been accepted by the lead local flood authority and is being implemented on site. However, the information required to allow the condition to be discharged is currently incomplete. Confirmation of the implementation of a land drain to the rear boundary of 8 plots, and I believe this is the plots that are immediately adjacent to Mr. Wright's home. So we have the land drain around these 8 plots, and the documentation of future maintenance arrangements for the drainage across the site are outstanding. Officers have made requests for the information and will make a priority to chase this up. Whilst these are important elements of the overall scheme, officers do not believe that these are so critical at this stage that formal enforcement action is justified. Officers have been in dialogue with the developer, who is showing a willingness to resolve the issues. This matter has taken longer than it would normally do so. However, I have spoken with the officers several times in the past months and again in the past few days about the importance of bringing this to a satisfactory conclusion as a priority. They are in communication with the developer to complete this matter without further undue delay, and preferably without the need for enforcement action. But this remains an option that will, if necessary, be taken. Officers inform me that they have regularly briefed Mr. Wright, and they will continue to do so as this progress. As an answer to your question in my role as chairman of the Planning Committee, I agree that it is important that Fylde Council is seen to appropriately enforce all planning decisions where expedient to do so. This is the national guidance. There has been slow progress on issues with the Raybrook development. Adjustments have been required and things could have been acted on sooner. and the drainage matter needs a prompt conclusion. But there are not significant development failings on the site. From my dialogue with officers, I know they are committed to securing this and I expect that this will be concluded without further undue delay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Now, Mr. Wright, you're allowed to ask a supplementary question which is pertinent to Councillor Fiddler's answer.
So many questions, so many questions. I think it's unfortunate I have to come here to get an actual answer like you've just given me. I appreciate the answer, but I'm not sure why I have to keep coming here to get those sort of responses. Andrew Stell told me it was a high priority 5 weeks, 6 weeks ago, and nothing has happened. And this isn't personal, because it isn't.
Question, Mr. Wright, please.
The plot isn't. I'm not next to the plots in question, and the land drains are being built over, as Mr. Stell knows.
Mr. Wright, please.
The question is, what sort of timescales are you talking about that this will get approved? Can you commit to that?
My answer to your question.
Please put your mic on.
My answering suggested that there are two outstanding issues. The land drain behind those 8 properties that are described and a maintenance scheme for the drainage system as a whole. These aren't major areas of concern. They are relative.
Sorry, did you say they're not?
I don't think they're major.
They are major.
But in terms of being able to be addressed as a priority, it shouldn't take too long. And I've got a commitment from the officers. I know that you're aware that we had more than one commitment and more than one question to this council. And I apologise openly that you keep coming with the question as you have described today. But the officers are giving me a reassurance that the two outstanding issues that I've just described will be dealt with as a priority.
They've been outstanding for 3 years, those issues.
Well, the two
Okay, gentlemen, thank you very much. It's next item. Item number 7, fully funded revenue budget. I ask Councillor Threlfall to introduce the next item.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I stand to propose this fully funded revenue budget increase to the Household Support Fund. This fund was well supported by the Environment, Health and Housing Committee. It will benefit the elderly, families and individuals in Fylde. I ask the Council to approve the revenue budget increase of up to £270,000 between 2022 and 2023, fully funded from government grant funding of the Household Support Grant. I have a seconder, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Delighted to second this. This is over £250,000 going exactly where it should be going, to people who need it, and nice to see that this round of funding is directed at older members of society, especially given our demographic here, and funding's been already put in place for school meals and school holidays and younger families. So it was well supported at committee. I hope everyone supports it again. Let's get that £270,000 spent.
Okay, anybody want to speak against this motion, please? No. All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. That's passed. Agenda item 8. The RIPA investigative powers. Invite Councillor Gaunt to introduce the next item.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This policy is reviewed annually as a matter of course, and no material changes to it have been made. I do note that some changes have been made to the wording in order to reflect recent changes to the officer management structure at the Council. So therefore propose the recommendation that Council endorse this updated policy this evening, and I do have a seconder.
I second this, Mr. Mayor. This is a long-standing bit of legislation that we have and has served us well.
Does anybody wish to speak against this motion? All those in favour, please shout. That's carried. Thank you very much. Meeting has just ended.